get too hurt, there's no need for screams or shouts or ugly words, no. I'm done with getting hate from love, you see, love, you see, love. Baby, can we kill these butterflies? They live and then they die, and that's the way I like it. I just wanna move on with my life. I've loved you for a while, and that's the way I like it. All these butterflies gotta go. I just gotta be on my own. I've been loving you for too long. All these butterflies gotta go. I just gotta be on my own. I've been loving you for too long. Too long. Move on my own. I've been loving you for too long. I know you're eager to move on with us, but you know I never do the long-term stuff, so let go and hope for better luck next time, 'cause I'm done with time-consuming love, you see. Baby, can we kill these butterflies? They live and then they die, and that's the way I like it. I just wanna move on with my life. I've loved you for a while, and that's the way I like it. All these butterflies gotta go. I just gotta be on my own. I've been loving you for too long. All these butterflies
Now we're live. What's up, people?
What's going on, guys? Look who it is. It's us.
I was going to say it's Mark.
Nah, man. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for joining us in another episode of Generation Orange. I'm your host, Mark Marquinho Segovia, alongside my co-host, Sean. You've been lost forever, Ringrose. What's going on, Sean?
Lost forever. Hold up. What?
I mean that's the rumor in the streets, man. Nobody knows where you at. Where you at, Sean?
Bro, I am busy. That's no joke. To give you guys an idea of how busy I am, next week, for 3 days in the week, I'll be waking up at 4 a.m. for a nice long day of work. Because that's how work is. We've got a lot of irons in the fire, as they say, and then I've also got a lot of extracurriculars that I'm working through. A lot of you guys have seen stuff on Twitter. Me talking about a tabletop RPG that I released just a couple weeks ago with a friend of mine. So I've been, working on that, doing a lot of marketing for that, and just trying to get stuff done across the board, man. It is a summer, but it doesn't feel like it for me. There's no break in this, not at all.
Yeah, man. I mean, even though I do consider Sean a very close person to me, obviously we've done this show for what now, 3 or 4 years now?
At least 4. It's been at least 4.
For sure.
It's been a hot minute.
Sean is on his come up. Sean knows that I'm always trying to be on my come up. So, when we don't do the Generation Orange or when we don't get together for the Dynamo events or whatever, he's doing his thing, I'm doing mine. But, Sean always knows he can catch me whenever he needs me. So,
and Mark knows the same is true. I mean, we have our own little Discord for the show that we kind of just keep, that way we can keep in touch even no matter what else is going on around us. And we talk throughout the week every once in a while, but I'll tell you, the last post before you posted that the show notes for tonight was 6 days before that, and that was just I'm not going to be available tomorrow for the show.
Yeah. I mean, something came up last minute last Thursday, man, and you know how it goes. So I mean, but hey,
no worries.
That's in the past. We're here today, and some good news, some bad news, some exciting news, some okay news, but we'll take it with a grain of salt, and we'll enjoy the show. And obviously, guys, if you have any questions or if you want to be involved with the show, hit us up on the chat on either YouTube at Generation Orange or on our Twitch channel as well. But let's start it off, man. I'm gonna get on. I'm gonna talk about this for a little bit. I know, Sean, you weren't there, but I'm pretty sure you probably heard about it. What happened Saturday's game with part of security of the stadium and some miscommunication. Let's just say, it was a good game. 2-2 Dynamo tie SKC, but the issue was at the supporters section. We had a couple of, for lack of a better term, and to not to be so aggressive towards them, nincompoops, out there yelling out the P chant, the infamous P chant. And when you bring people that don't usually go to supporters group, especially if they're guests of yours, and I'm not sure if these guys were guests of anybody or they're just randoms that walked in or whatever. It's our responsibility when that chant comes up to let these people know, like, hey, yo, that's not cool, or chill, or whatever, because there's a build up to that chant. So if they're building up to it, that it's coming, and I need to kind of tell them chill. I'm not asking anybody to be confrontational. I'm not asking anybody to tell another person how to fan, but we know that chant is a no-go now, and MLS all over the world, FIFA, well, all over the world except for Mexico, but with that being said, the P chant was heard. I'm guessing they heard it on air on the Apple TV aircast, so I'm guessing they called the Dynamo people to let them know about it, and that's when security got kind of tight about it. I saw one of our Lesions walk and stand in the middle aisle of the supporter section in the lower group. And when it was heard a second time, they obviously grabbed the guys, they did it, and they escorted them out. No problem with that, no issues with that, right? Cool. But the environment after that felt a little tense afterwards, and I'm with my wife, so obviously for me, when I'm with my wife, I'm trying to be as cool and chill and mellow as possible because nor I or will I put myself in a situation or any type of altercation or confrontation with anybody when she's with me. Now, if I'm by myself, whatever. But she's with me, I'm as chill as a cucumber.
Yep.
But
unless somebody else is stepping up, and then you're stepping back because stepping to them because you're with your wife and you've got protection mode on.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I get that. I just for what it's worth, I get that for sure.
But with that being said, there was a tension in the supporter section afterwards, and with obviously giving respect. There was extra security. I don't know if it was security left over from the Gold Cup matches. I saw it was a lot of new people around there as far as security people that I personally haven't seen before. So I mean, maybe it might have been a misunderstanding on what's good and what's not. But let's just say, supporters were getting harassed, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, or just punished for things that we usually do on a constant basis in the supporter section. Obviously, that section is not the same as any other section in the stadium. So, maybe they didn't have that understanding, or it was miscommunicated in the wrong way. But with that being said, a couple of our supporters were taken out of the section as well. Now, to my knowledge and to what I've been told, everything's been laid out, everything's been taken care of, and everything's been smoothed out between the supporters and the club. So with that being said, I mean, we'll let the past be the past, but it's just one of those situations where it's damn that it sucks that it happened, and to the person it happened to, I think we all know in this chat who it happened to, it's one of the guys that's the most loyal and most pro team, pro club supporters out there, and for it to happen to him, imagine if it happens to him. I mean, what would they do with the rest of us, So, but with that being said, they flushed everything out. Everything seems to be cool. Everything seems to be going back to normal. So, I just wanted to give a little bit of attention to that. But once again, I just want to reiterate, for anybody who invites guests to the supporter section, whether it be Batallón, Surge, Bandera Negra, Texanian Army, let your guests know, man, that chant is not allowed. That chant is not allowed under any circumstances, and us as supporters and the ones who are there on a constant basis in that section, I understand that we have security and they need to govern that, but it's also our section. It's our right to be there. So we need to take care of our section, and if people are in there being not obliging by the rules, like I said, I'm not asking you to be aggressive towards them or be in any kind of altercation. So let them know, hey man, that's not cool, or hey, we don't do that here. And that's it. But with that being said, Sean, anything you want to add to it before we move on?
Oh, there's a host of things that I could talk about related to that. I think really the big thing that caught my attention is not this particular situation, because frankly, this situation was going to happen at some point or another. There was always going to be a first time for that sort of thing to happen. I think you definitely did well to explain the likelihood that these were probably security people who were hired or had been trained during the time of the lead up to the Gold Cup matches. And so their focus and the training is very different from what the ones who were trained on a typical Dynamo match or Dash match in terms of the specific supporter section, how they typically get kind of trained and what their focuses are and what they kind of work on to make sure they watch for. And I think to some extent it would have been better for the club to come out ahead of time and say, hey guys, as supporters groups, we want to let you know we're using, our security guys are going to be a little different this week or this match or these matches because we've got the Gold Cup. We know where they're going to be stretched thin. So just to anticipate that there's going to be some different security people out there, and they're probably, going to be a little bit more aggressive than you're used to having. They're not going to be the same ones you're used to seeing, so they're not going to be all buddy, chummy. On the flip side of that, I think it falls to the supporters a little bit to understand and have awareness of what's going on in your stadium before and after the match overall, and to not just go into the match expecting it to do the same way every time. And I'm not pinning this on anybody in particular, but what I'm saying is when somebody in a security uniform tells you not to do something, you really should follow what they tell you not to do, especially after there's already been an incident where they've had to escalate things beyond the norm, because now they're on edge. They're trying to make sure that they're mediating or remediating anything that is happening, and they're going to be more aggressive at that point. So they're already on edge. And you're just amplifying that on it. Now, there was a lot of talk that got said by a lot of people that had no business talking. The only people that should have been talking were the people who were escorted out and the people who were directly next to them, and that was it. If you had a story because you saw it from 15 rows away or from another section away, keep your mouth shut, because you don't know what's going on. You don't have any clue what was said, what was thought, what was going on, who did what, none of that. You think you know, but you don't know, trust me. And there were a lot of things that were said by, like I said, by people that shouldn't have been saying and shouldn't have been talking. And it led to a lot of people getting uproariously pissed off to the level that they should have never gotten. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't have been upset, but the level that it got to, where people are threatening or even going to the extent of canceling or not renewing their season tickets, is fucking ridiculous to me. And y'all know I don't use that term lightly. It is fucking ridiculous to me. And the fact that, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this once and only once, and I want y'all to hear me. The fact that nobody in the surge leaderships, and I'm calling it out for what it is, stepped up and said, look, this is what happened. We're working on it. Please chill with that kind of talk. Please chill with what y'all are doing, because we're figuring it out, and just let it happen. It speaks volumes to me. The focus about that group right now has absolutely diverted from where it belongs. It is no longer about supporting the club. Calling it out for what it is. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, it's an unfortunate event that happened. There's a lot of miscommunication between both sides. And like I said, I mean, it's at the end of the day, I'm not blaming the security team, because they're just doing their job, whatever their job is, whatever job description they have, they're trying to do whatever is, they're trying to do the best, whatever they're trying to do. And obviously, as the supporters, doing what we usually do, we want to continue doing that to support the club as we support them and the team on the field, as we have been supporting. But but when push comes to shove, if something is going on for whatever reason in the section that usually doesn't happen, and security has to kind of amp up, I mean, it kind of is what it is for that moment. But
exactly.
Anyways, let's get away from that moment. Let's chirp up. It's a beautiful day outside, and I don't want to continue on with that, especially because it's already been kind of resolved. But yeah, man. Obviously, since the last time we've been on a shitload of matches have happened. But we'll speak up. We'll talk about the last two that have happened at home. Starting with the SKC match, a 2-2 tie that happened. Last extra time goal by Ivan Franco, his second in the season, got us that point against SKC. Sean, I don't know if you watched the game. I know you weren't there because I was there and I didn't see you.
I did watch the game, though. I did watch the game. I wasn't able to go, but I did watch the game.
No, I mean, just your thoughts on the game, man. I mean, it seems like, obviously we have a great, astonishing home record at the moment, right? But everybody's a little worried about that summer slump that's coming, that usually comes. It doesn't matter who the coach is, whether it's Wilmer, whether it's Tab, whether it's Paulo. Now it's Ben.
Look, it would happen with Dom too. It's not like Dom was, able to ignore it. It would happen with Dom every year also.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems to be creeping up a little bit. I mean, the only difference here is that obviously, we lost the last match at home, and then obviously we have I think a one more away game before we go to this month-long break because of League Cup. So maybe this new tournament might help us out a little bit because we don't have to play so many games that mean something for the regular season in this hot ass weather. So maybe we don't slump as much. But we'll see. That's to be determined, right? But obviously, since the degrees have hit triple digits, the Dynamo haven't been as cohesive as they've been earlier on in the season. And obviously the SKC match, a dumb penalty by I think it was Escobar, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was Escobar.
Yeah, so a dumb penalty to kind of change the momentum back to and give it back to SKC after who was it who scored the first goal? Aliou.
Yeah, Aliou. Yeah.
Fantastic team goal. I mean, I looked at the replay when I got back, and just the passing was nice and crisp, and then Herrera's unselfishness to give Aliou.
Oh, that's right. It was Artur that got the PK call. That's right. Thank you, Kenny.
Yeah. So okay. And it was Herrera's unselfishness and leadership to give that extra pass because he could have scored from there for himself, but to give Aliou that gimme to score his first MLS goal was just fantastic. But aside from that, Sean, any other things that you want to talk about the match from as far as Saturday goes?
No, I felt like, for probably 3/4 of that match, we really were kind of holding our own and controlling it in a way. We were creating the chances we want to create. It's just that, SKC hit us hard and hit us quick. And we had to bounce back from that. The guys showed a lot of resilience to come back the way that they did, and to play as strong as they did over the full 90 plus. But maybe that was a sign of things to come, as they say. Because it did not look good at all last night.
Yeah, I mean before we get to Minnesota's game, last night didn't look good at all. But just going back to Saturday's game, I mean like I said, I don't know if it was the heat, I don't know if position, because like I was right there when I saw it was Artur. Kenny mentioned in the chat. Thanks, Kenny.
Yeah.
When I saw him stick his foot out like that, I was like, come on, dude, like. And sometimes it's Arthur knows better, right? He's been one of our better, if not the best player of this season, right? But it's just, I don't know if it's mental fatigue or just the weather, the hotness of it all, you just kind of drained, and you're just not really thinking at that time, and you can tell at that moment in time he had no reason to stick his foot out like that. I forgot who he tackled down. It wasn't Paulito. It was the other cat. But
yeah, I don't remember either. But I know
he didn't have the angle. He didn't have the angle, so it wasn't necessary. So and those were the plays that the last couple of years would haunt the Dynamo.
Yep.
Where it would just shift the momentum. Everything would go downhill from there after they score PKs. Now, to give the Dynamo credit for the season, I mean, they haven't really let those kind of moments derail them and take them out the games. But but still, it's one of those moments where you're like, man, that those 3 points are very important. I mean, you see the middle of the Western Conference, and we're all bunched up from LAFC. I mean, I'm sorry, from Seattle Sounders all the way to Vancouver Whitecaps. We're all bunched up, and we're all like 3-4 points away from each other. And it's going to be like that the whole season. And, I'm glad that the Dynamo up to this point are still in the mix. And I believe they're an 8th seed right now. So they're just right there on the line, on the cusp for playoff positioning. So, I mean, that's the positive side of things, right? But, we do have 10 losses this season. And when you look back at those losses, whether or not you could have turned them into ties or even wins, that's the type of stuff you start looking at, and you're like, man.
Did we lose Mark? I think we lost Mark. Bye, Mark. I guess when Mark wins the lottery, he also needs to take the time to get some better internet. Right in the middle. But you know what? That's a great screenshot, though. I should probably take a picture of that because that's a pretty great visual right there. Thank you, G. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thought that. Yeah, someone clip it on Twitch. I got that power. I'm actually not technically on Twitch because I use Restream, but somebody hit that on Twitch and hit that clip button or whatever, keybind or whatever it is. But yeah, so he wants to talk SKC. I don't. Frankly, to me, that's been like I said, that was kind of a portent of things to come. Oh, he's completely gone. Y'all got the crazy looking me going on because of how that whole thing works. But let's see if I can lean over here so you can see me better, or do I want to lean over here? Maybe that's better. But it's I look at Saturday as kind of just a preview of what we should have expected for Wednesday. And I think this is, if you watch the last 4 or 5 matches, I think even in the wins there have been moments that we've been susceptible at the back. It feels like the defense is not as solid as it was in the early part of the season, and it's only kind of gotten worse and worse. Teams are maybe figuring out how to play against this kind of approach, or I don't know what else it is. Mark's power went out, just so everybody knows. But with that being said, though, if you look and you move from Saturday to Wednesday to last night's match was a shit show. I mean, in every way possible. The boys couldn't get much going, if anything, and they were pounced on from the first whistle, until the final whistle, and given no space to really work and create what they needed to create. And, the goals that they gave up, at least the one of them that I can remember very distinctly, there's nothing to say, but it was a stupid goal to give up. I mean, there's no reason for it. And I think, Evil, to your point, yeah, we should be concerned. We should be worried about what happened. And, it's the, annual summer struggles that are here. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But I think there's another step to that. We have the summer transfer window that's open right now, and Mark's got it in the show notes, and we'll probably talk about it a little more. But, I have to kind of be a little concerned that if I look at things, if the team does not make a move in this summer window and they see what's happening with the defense, I'm kind of concerned about that, right? Like I've got some questions. I've got some real worry, about the direction of this club and this team. Did they blow everything to get the players they got in the offseason and now they don't have anything left? We've got a couple of players that absolutely at this point, in my opinion, should be sold. One that I don't know if anybody was watching last night. I sure did. Watching the U.S. and Panama Gold Cup match in the semifinals, and watching that the matches that went to PKs, and seeing our boy Coco Carrasquilla going up and stepping up as the 6th penalty kick taker and nailing it in a super pressure situation. At a venue that is a U.S. venue, without a doubt. I mean, yeah, he's got to be gone. And there's rumors that and he's said it that the Dynamo have told him if a big offer comes in, they'll consider they're willing to move him. But what is the price tag on that? It's got to be substantial. My concern and what I don't want to see happen is Pat wait to make that move because he's waiting for the big offer, and he waits until the last week of the summer window, right? If he waits until the last week of the summer window, you're not going to have a lot of time to get a new guy in to replace Coco. Now you've hurt your depth, and you're not bringing in, not just a replacement, but you're not bringing in somebody that can help you in the process. And so that's what I'm concerned about when I look at this summer window and the slowness with which it feels like we're seeing news trickle out. Now, with that being said, this is how the Dynamo have always operated. They take every rumor and they kill them. I mean, they absolutely kill them. They make sure there's no leaks out there of information. Nobody's going to know who's a possibility, anything like that. They keep that stuff so locked up and tight that you will never find out until until at least it gets to the point where Glenn is confirming it or somebody else is confirming it. I'm assuming you're talking about Juan Castilla. And I do agree with that. I think he's got to be on his way out as well. Just based off what I've read and what I've seen and what I've heard. But I want to focus on the Coco thing, because I think with Coco, what he just did in the Gold Cup elevates his status tremendously. And there were teams that were already interested in prime places that we can get some money. But it falls to Pat to make the deal. Don't sit there and don't sit on it for so long that you miss out on what you could have. And, and look, the difference, and it's going to sound crazy, but the difference between 5 million and 8 million right now is not enough for us to sit and wait. It's really not. The difference between 5 million and 12 million, that's different. But 5 million and 8 million, that's not enough for us to worry about. At that point, if you've got an offer for above 5 million, you've got to take it. Don't worry about what he could do. Don't worry about his possible potential in the final. You got to make that move now so that you can start working on bringing the guy in that's going to elevate the team so that when you get to that hard crunch at the end of the summer, leading into the fall and getting ready to go into playoffs, you have the guy in place and he's already acclimated to playing with your players. You don't want to wait until it's that, it is the end of the summer transfer window. It is the end of August, I believe, is the end of the summer transfer window. Quote me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong. It might even be the end of this month. But you don't have, well, that's Mark's fault. I can't help that, Mel. But, you have an opportunity to still get a guy in. You get 2 extra weeks if you get him in now or get him in with the next week. You'll have 1 week left. And that's why I'm leaning over this way. Y'all can't see it, but I'm leaning to the left, which is the right on y'all's screen, so that y'all can see me at least zoomed in, because I got no other way to fix that without getting out of this view, and then it gets all funky. Well, actually, no, yeah, because it'll mess it up even worse. There's y'all making me self-conscious. Stop that. Ends August 2nd. So you have less than a half month. You're right around a half month at this point. You got like 18 days. And you got to have paperwork in by the end of that 18th day. You can't wait too long. So you can't sit here and wait for him to hit that next level. You got to just go ahead. You just got to go ahead and make the move. If you got an offer on the table, if it's from, La Liga, if it's from Liga MX, if it's from any other European place, whatever, wherever that offer or offers are from, you've got to take the best offer. You got to make it work. You've got to be willing to put in the work and get it done, because if you don't, and if you wait until this is cool, then it's going to be over. You're not going to get what you need, and you're going to be stuck with a bunch of money in a roster slot that you can't fill, at least not easily. And the fact that we haven't made any moves yet is infuriating to me. I know we don't have a lot of space and we don't have a lot of roster slots, but you've got ways to make things happen. And it feels like we're just sitting because we don't have a lot of options. And I am not surprised that Coco only wants Europe, because frankly, if I was in Coco's shoes, especially after last night, I damn well would be saying, yeah, Europe is for me. Without a doubt. And especially knowing that when he came in, he was the number one, effectively became the number one, in the midfield. And then we signed Hector Herrera, and now he's kind of the second guy on the totem pole, and then very quickly gets even knocked down from there because he and Hector Herrera kind of play the exact same position. And then you bring in a new coach that he doesn't really fit as well with. And yeah, it just, more and more of that happening as we go along. But yeah, I just, I look at the situation and I have to wonder, what are the Dynamo doing? What are the Dynamo up to? What types of things is Pat and Pat and Asher trying to work right now? I do believe they're working. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if they're necessarily, focused on getting Coco and Sebas out the door. And I agree. Sebas is number 2. He's got to be number 2 on that list to sell. And you're probably not going to recoup what you paid for Sebas. 10 to 15 minutes. All right, sounds good, Mark, because I'm tired of leaning over. But Sebas, yeah, he's got to be number 2. I disagree on selling Bird, because I don't think he's got a lot of value across MLS. He's got some, but I don't think a lot. Selling Mikael, I can agree with that, actually. I think that as an outside back, he's got potential, but he still has not figured out how to be the guy. I think he's really starting to dwindle on me as the guy. And I thought he looked great for Dose when he was down there. And I thought his first few matches, he was pretty good. But then as time went on, he began to get outpaced and outclassed by a lot of wingers in MLS. And I think that's a big part of it, is that he's basically a center back that's been converted to left back. Look, I mean, if we really want to talk about it, Steres was a better left back than Mikael was. And I think there's room for moving Steres back there again, because what you're trying to do at center back with Steres and Shevchenko is not working either. It's just not fast enough. Yeah, and then Bartlow, I don't think you sell Bartlow. I think Bartlow is way too good. He's got way too much capability and opportunity and quality, even at his young age, to be the guy that you look to move right now. Do I see the Dynamo potentially going after Santiago Moreno? I'm not familiar enough with Santiago Moreno to say one way or the other. I don't really think the Dynamo right now have any idea of who they're going after. I think they've got names on the chart, but I think that's about it. I think they want to wait until they sell either Sebas or Coco because they don't have the room otherwise to go after a guy. Yeah, Mikael. Are you talking about George? When you say you like his ball control and calmness, are you talking about Mikael or are you talking about Bartlow? Because both of those came up. Steres is a smarter player and knows his speed. I agree. He is a smarter player, and he knows his weakness is the speed out there, and he plays to avoid that being something the other team can occupy. I think Mikael is no different in terms of his ability to play the ball out of the back than Bartlow is. Bartlow is very calm and controlled on the ball. He's a ball playing center back. I think that comes from his college experience, though. I think Mikael makes the same passes as a center back. You just didn't see it hardly ever because he only played, I think, one match for the Dynamo at center back. Mikael did versus Bartlow, who played plenty more. So it's different. It's very different. How do I feel about New England loaning Latif Blessing after knowing we could have signed him last season? I am not happy. Yeah, and it was a trade with Latif Blessing going to Toronto in exchange for Mark Anthony Kaye, who's going to the Revs. Yeah, it was kind of a swap there. I still think that I'm frustrated that Dynamo didn't go after Latif Blessing because you could have had Bird and Latif Blessing. You could have still brought in Amin Bassi. You could have had a rotation so that Bird didn't have to shoulder so much of the burden when Sebas wasn't the guy up top. You had ways to make that work. Let's be realistic. You had ways to make that work. The Dynamo just didn't rate Latif Blessing high enough. They talked about it, but they could never make it and could never get it to go across the line. So, it's sad. Yeah, he was a free agent. We had a chance to get him for free. We had a chance to trade for him before his contract was up, and it wasn't going to cost us but a draft pick. And it's not like a draft pick is going to do anything more than Latif Blessing is going to do on the field anyways, at least in the immediacy. So why not take a flyer on a Latif Blessing when you can absolutely do that? Mark, just post in Twitch chat when you try to join so I can make sure to hit the admit button so you can join in here. But yeah, I think what I've seen, and I've talked about this before from a Pat perspective. Look, I'm now bought in, I think, on Ben Olsen because I still think what Ben is doing is pretty good. I don't think it's great, but I think it's good enough. My biggest concern, though, no, look, we're never getting Diego Rossi. You can stop that bullshit right now. You know for a fact that's not happening, Mark. Just trying to start stuff. I know it. I know you well enough. I wish, trust me, he would be top of my list without a doubt. It's just not happening. It's absolutely not happening. But, Pat, to me, has been a general manager who has been slow to pull the trigger when needed and has tried to give as much space to let things happen. And the problem there when you have a slow GM is that you miss out on a lot of opportunities. And this is a Dynamo club that needs to take every opportunity that they basically get handed. Latif Blessing was a great example of an opportunity that was handed to them, put into their laps, basically. This was a golden opportunity because Latif Blessing wanted to come to Houston. And so, it was an opportunity. It was absolutely an opportunity. And like I said, Dynamo at this stage, in the club's tenure, they've got to take every opportunity that they can. And I completely agree with that, Mark. Ben Olsen is good for this stage of Dynamo improvement. I originally would have loved to see a guy like a Tata Martino, who good luck Tata in Miami. But, I would have loved to have seen, 2 or 3 of the big coaches we talked about a few different times. But, I think we've talked about this, but Pat was never going to sign off on those coaches because, frankly, Pat wants the control and the power over the club, at least over the personnel decisions. He wants to be that guy, and this is his opportunity to prove that he can be the general manager of a club at the stage. And, when I look at the moves that we've made, yeah, we've made some great moves, but I don't think there's anybody that would argue right now that we've made some bad moves as well. We just finally inked the full transfer for Nelson Quinones. That was confirmed and I think announced a couple days ago or something like that. So Nelson Quinones is done and he's a Dynamo permanently. And I look at that and I go, that's a decent move. But why would you pay that money for a Nelson Quinones when you could have had the exact same thing at a much lower price point in Latif Blessing? And over a year ago, you could have had Latif Blessing. Because Nelson Quinones has the potential to be that guy and be maybe better than Latif Blessing, I don't think that's the case. Everything that I've seen out of Nelson Quinones says that he can be a good player, but I don't think Nelson Quinones can be a great player. He doesn't have the technical ball control to be a great player. Manny, that's exactly it. Tata or any big name coach that would have came in would have wanted total control of transfers and to pick the personnel that he wants. And I think you have to be willing, if that's the case, you have to be willing to have a coach like a Ben Olsen that's a guy that's just going to go with the flow. He's going to work with whatever you give him. He's going to be okay with it. It's not going to be a big issue. Mark says Tata understands the type of player he needs for his style of play while Olsen just uses what's given him. Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. Olsen is willing to accept whatever he is served in terms of player transfers and player, trades and transactions. Whereas Tata Martino, he would have been steadfast. He'd have been like, you're getting me these players. This is my short list. Go get these guys and I'll make magic happen on the pitch. And I think that's the difference. And I like that we went and got a GM early, a year and a half effectively before we hired Ben Olsen. But I think my concern is when you hired Ben Olsen, you really were very clear that your next step was not a big step. It was a little step. It was movement forward, but it wasn't the big step that fans wanted. It wasn't going to be the big step that was going to get fans back in the seats. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I think in 1 to 2 seasons at the rate that the Dynamo are improving, you're going to need a control type of coach. You're going to need a coach that has a high profile, like George says, high profile and has the demand and the capability to take the team and the roster to the next step. Because again, we're not seeing it with Pat. Hector Herrera was done, which is great. That's, a great move, but we've seen a half season of the best of Hector Herrera, and that's about it so far. Amin Bassi, a great move, but we've seen a half season of pretty good Amin Bassi play right now. Outside of that, Shevchenko, I mean, he's been a solid signing, but I wouldn't go out there and say he was a club defining signing. I don't think anybody at this point other than Amin Bassi, and Hector Herrera would be club defining signings or transactions or transfers, whatever you want to call them. I think Sebas and Coco could have been, but it's clear that Pat and Asher and even Ben don't feel the same way about those two players. They don't believe in those two players anymore. And I say that, with all due respect to those players, but I don't think it's the case. Mark says, I think left back is a need this summer and a more capable 9. I definitely will agree with you on that. We need to sign a true left back because it's clear that Brad Smith is not going to be the guy. And then I said it when we signed him. He's not going to be the guy he was. He might be a decent stopgap, but he's not going to be that permanent guy that's going to, save us. And more capable 9. Yeah, I mean, but the thing is Olsen's not going to play with a 9. If he was going to play with the 9, he would have put Amin Bassi there, and he would play Nelson Quinones on one wing and Corey Bird on the other wing, and then start Aliyu up top. Amin Bassi is a 9. He is absolutely a 9. He played as an attacking mid, and that is where he's best. What we've seen out of Amin Bassi is not even his best because he's not playing in his most comfortable position. Yeah, Shevchenko is a culture. Wait, Eric is a culture signing? Eric, who are you talking about? Eric who? Obviously Sebas needs to be sold. I think everybody agrees with that. So it's time for Sebas to get sold. He's taking up way too much value on the bench. Shevchenko, he's a culture signing? Oh, because of the veteran leadership. Okay, I got you now. It took me a minute to understand what you were. Yeah, you're good enough. I understand now. So Shevchenko was to improve the attitude, the culture in the locker room, to improve that team atmosphere, those types of things, to bring somebody who's, who can be that type of leader in the locker room. I agree with that 100%. I don't think there's any doubt about that because it wasn't Hector Herrera, although Hector Herrera has done a great job at trying to be a little bit more of that this season. But between him and Shevchenko, you know, there's still obviously some things that need to be worked on. Liu gets plenty of opportunities, but he's just not finishing. Unfortunately, it comes back to what I said. He's not as technically comfortable on the ball as he is if he just gets the ball over the top or he gets a ball in front of goal, he just shoots it, right? Like he's just a turn and shoot quick guy. He's a definition of a target man or a poacher, but he can at least hold up play sometimes and then pass the ball out occasionally to get a winger, you know, sprung free for a 1v1 opportunity or something similar. Yeah, throw some more questions at me. I'm running out of stuff to talk about because solo is hard, guys. Mark is killing me with this not being back on. But yeah, I mean, you know, going back to what we're talking about with the coach stuff, you know, I think we beat that dead horse, you know, all season long and all preseason and off season. You know, Ben Olsen was a stopgap coach. He was intended to kind of be that you know, transition coach to get you to the next level once you had the players that were good enough to get you to the next level. And I could certainly see that. I think my concern is that, you know, you set an expectation when you brought him in that, you know, that was not going to be the case, that this was a guy who's won. He's, you know, his record of getting to the playoffs is outstanding, you know, et cetera. You're setting the expectation and they want to sell tickets. I get it. Whatever. It's fine. But I still think there needed to be some expectation that should have been set. Callow says, you know, obviously left back, which everybody agrees with at this point, and a true winger. A true winger should be a priority. I mean, they just spent money to get Nelson Quinones in here. So I don't know how much money they're going to be willing to spend on yet another winger when they feel like they have guys at winger. Oh, my God, Mark, you are dark as all heck. What is up?
So this is the best I can do.
You're good.
Moment, but,
You're good. I'm just glad not to be solo anymore, bro.
Thank you for holding it down, Sean. You know, but yeah, unfortunately, center point is failing us again. But what's new? But the show goes on. Yeah, I was listening to you on the Twitch. Obviously, I guess you're on the summer transfer window.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't follow your show notes exactly, so there's still room to talk various things if you want.
Nah, it's all good. I just can't see the chat, so you're gonna have to help me along with the chat, Sean.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that being said, I mean, as far as like the summer transfer window goes, I mean, you know, I do agree with you. Obviously, there's nothing that can be done until we get through with the seventh conundrum. You know, obviously there was rumors that there's several. So I don't know what several means. MLS clubs interested in buying him, actually taking him off our hands, which would open up a.
That's at least three. It's at least three.
Yeah. So I mean, that's an interesting thing, and you know, and if obviously there's a little bit of competition to try to get him, I would try to get that done as soon as possible, because the sooner you get it done, the quicker you can move on and find the replacement, you know, for that DP spot. Because, you know, obviously with that DP spot, having the availability of that.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question real quick, based on what you just said and what I've been thinking about this for a while.
Okay.
What if Miami is one of those clubs that wants him?
Well, so see, but I mean, Miami doesn't have the DP spot. You know, that's the thing.
I mean, they could spend TAM this year to buy him down. They've got the TAM to buy him down.
Well, I mean, you know, but they got Campana and they got Joseph. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
you know, possibility certainly exists, and he would be the type of player that a Tata Martino would want in terms of how he plays that position.
For sure, dude. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted Tata, because I think that Sebas has that Joseph type of striker forward, and I think he would bring out the best of him. You know, obviously, if they can work something out to where and make it happen. I mean, I guess MLS, if this is the time to adjust the rules, I mean, this is the time to do it, right? But yeah, hypothetically speaking, if he was to move over to Miami, I think he would be he would knock in the goals, you know?
Exactly. But, I mean, the man had double-digit goals last season on a terrible Dynamo team where he wasn't getting any service. Yeah, sure. You give him the service of Lionel Messi, shut it down. Yeah. It's over. It's over. That man's hitting 30 goals in a season.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, the style of play, it has to do a lot with it, and obviously he doesn't fit Ben's style of play, but like we mentioned, I mean, he's the coach for this time, and maybe Sebas is the forward that we need once we're to a certain type of level, right? And I guess and we're just not at that level at this moment, but with that being said, I think he still holds a lot of value, and especially because he's fresh, he's a fresh player. Just you got to get him in a couple of training camps. So that's why I'm saying that you gotta make this deal happen as soon as you can, because obviously the team that gets him wants to get him up to speed as quickly as possible. To get him scoring goals the way he was for the Dynamo last season. And
So,
and with that being said,
so let me ask
I'm sorry.
this. Let me ask this because I think you'll appreciate this question because it ties into what you were just talking about. What is the value you're looking to get back in a Sebas, trade within MLS?
See, it's crazy because obviously in MLS, doing a trade within MLS, there's no transfer fee or whatever, so it'd be kind of gam, right? But look, I would appreciate, because I think what we bought him for like 4 million or 5 million in transfer fee, right? If I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there. So I mean, when you equivalent that to, I guess, like Don Garber bucks or whatever, I mean, look. Honestly, if a team is willing to give me 2 million in GAM and open up my DP spot, I'm taking that right now, because obviously with $2 million in my account, and then having that DP spot open, it opens up a lot of opportunities and a lot of different scenarios to make the team better and to better equip the team, not just with a high level player, but with some depth as well. You can go make other transactions with MLS players within the MLS. Like we just mentioned earlier with the Latif Blessing and K Anthony trade. I mean, either one of those players would have been fantastic addition to the Dynamo. As far as in the case we do lose Coco to Spain or whatever, or wherever he goes to. But it just gives us more flexibility. And this club and this team obviously needs all the flexibility and all the talent that it's able to grab and garnish, because we're on an upward swing. Look, is it the most attractive brand of football? No, it's not. But like I said, it's baby steps, and we're moving towards the right direction. And being eighth place right now at this moment, halfway through the season, just before the League Cup tournament starts, I think we're in a great position to make it happen. If and only if the front office is aggressive enough, because they're right there, and it could be one special player signing this summer that can get them over the hump and get them in the playoffs. And
Yeah.
as a fan base, we get the playoffs. We're great. This is a great season, especially not and then throw that alongside the U.S. Open Cup semifinal, depending on how that goes. It's a great season. You know, we haven't been able to say that for almost 6 years, 6 7 years. So I mean, it's an accomplishment. It would give me more confidence in the front office, especially in Pat. You know, for going into next season. To build upon this successful season. And like I said, I don't know what's going on in the chat, but I think a lot, if not all of y'all would agree, if we snuck into the playoffs and made a U.S. Open Cup run into the final, whether we win it or not, that's a positive season. Positive season. But I do think the front office needs to take advantage of this opportunity that they have in front of them. Sell Sebas, sell Coco, and then bring in the level of player that is needed to take us over that hump and to actually make a realistic run to this MLS playoffs. Because look at the signings just look at the couple of signings that happened. RSL brought in Chicho, which is the 9 that played for LAFC last year in their MLS Cup winning run. Chicho scored 20 goals in MLS last season, right? 20 goals as a number 9. Great signing by RSL. Obviously, the rumors of Diego Rossi going to Atlanta United. Hey, he was a Golden Boot winner the season before he got transferred to Turkey. And he scored 60 goals in 4 seasons in MLS. That's a 15-goal average, being the number 2 behind Bell at that time. That's a great signing if Atlanta United makes it happen. I mean, so there's possibilities. There's players out there that are willing to come over here, that are willing to play in America and have a good lifestyle. And if you have that DP spot available, use it. Because I got to give a round of applause to the team because, I mean, look, to have only one functional DP at our exposure and to be at the position that we're at, that's a fantastic job all around. But now imagine having two functional DPs and one that actually scores. Sky's the limit. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. So, going back a bit, because you had a nice long conversation with yourself, going back a bit to read some chat for you here. George says, the goal is playoffs. What if that doesn't happen? What then? I think that's a great question. So let's talk about it. If the Dynamo don't look, I'm going to go with this. If the Dynamo don't make a move in this summer window, they miss out on playoffs, and it's not like they just miss out. They miss out. They're like bottom 3 teams, and they're missing out by like 5 or 6 points. So they miss out. It's clear they missed out. What happens then? Is this a burn it down and start over? Is this okay? We still have needs. We need to, areas we need to improve. What does that step at that point become?
So this question is a good question. Thanks, George, for the question. So if I'm looking at it from Ted's perspective, man, I gotta really look at Pat and the front office staff, because like I mentioned prior, you have an opportunity to do something special with the club that you have right now going. The foundation is being laid out. We're in the mix right now. We're in the mix, and obviously you have the potential of making moves to create huge flexibility for the club to improve your club right now. Now, whether or not they have the balls or they have the resources to actually go make that move necessary, that's going to show me how serious they are about making the playoffs. Now, if they don't do jack squat and they keep Sebas, they don't sell Coco, and the Dynamo end up bottom of the table in the Western Conference again, then I have to take a long look at my front office staff and see and understand their ambitions. Yeah, they did a great job the first half of the season, but everybody's done a great job the first half of the season. Wilmer did a great job the first half of the season. Those COVID years were weird years, so I don't really count those years or whatever. But there has to be accountability to understand that when you are punching above the pay grade that you are, and you have an opportunity to do something that you haven't done in such a long time, they need to grab the bull by the horns and take that opportunity and go for it. Because if this is another bottom of the table season, even if they do lift the US Open Cup, I might be looking for a pat out, hashtag pat out, realistically speaking. So,
so it's also been said, let's see. Sorry, there's lots of chat here you're missing out on, so I'm catching up.
Good, man. Hey guys, I looked at y'all in the chat before I got on here, man. We appreciate the support and continued support and all that, because I know we're not on here on a constant basis like we would like to be. But man, we love the fact that you're active on there and and you're following from YouTube, Twitch, wherever, and just keep them coming.
What's up, Pablo? So real quick, I'm gonna read some of these off to you. It's probably gonna be lightning round style fast, so just bear with me, Mark.
Let's go.
So Marlon says, good season, especially because lately we're not playing great much anymore. George says we need a signing bigger than HH. Don't forget we need to still dump Teenage. That's gonna be tough because of the injury, but we'll see. Evils, because Doggo had asked for predictions around the US Open Cup semifinal. Evil says Dynamo 2, RSL 1. I like that prediction. I hope that comes true. Kalos, say that again, Mark. Sorry.
I said it's a month away and RSL are making moves. So.
And Dynamo aren't. So Kalos says, here's my problem with Sebas. When he was in an environment in which he succeeded, the rest of the team was failing. So building a system for him is not necessarily the answer. That said, I don't understand playoffs as a step forward if we can't at least compete in them. Half the league makes the playoffs. And then, you got power back. Marlon says, our defense has proven we can play without Hadedabi. I know you didn't intend to misspell that, but that was great. Hadedabi, and be successful. Can we just trade him in order to get that DP back and used in a playmaker? So before say that again,
the teenage contract expires this season. So I mean,
it does, and we're in a real bad spot because you can't really trade a guy that's injured. No. There are a lot of rules and restrictions around that. Now, that's not to say you can't trade him. It's just that because of his status as an injured player, that you have filled his roster slot. Most people don't know this. That's why we can do the moves we've done, because he's injured. You're kind of in a real tough place. We're not moving him before the winter window, so he's going to be a free agent, and I don't think there's a point in us re-signing him to try to make it work. To me, it's not a good move. So to Pablo's question, finally, now that we're there, what do you think about Caicedo? I think he's been pretty underrated this season. What do you think about Caicedo in like 3 or 4 matches that he started and played in?
Well, I mean, if you notice, they switched the formation around, so Caicedo hasn't really covered the Coco, obviously.
He's played as more of like a true DM adjacent to Artur.
He's more of a cover for Ache and for Arthur. But I mean, but the times that he's been on there, I mean, dude, he's quality as far as depth. As him being our number 4 midfielder, I think he's done a great job up to this point.
I'll say this. I'm not concerned when I see him on the substitution board coming in, because it's not a drop off. It might be a drop off when he's coming off for Ache in terms of the offensive side of it, but in terms of his ability to prevent the counterattack and hold down, that section of the field, solid, rock solid. I am very pleased with that signing.
Yeah, for sure. And look, like I said, the thing about it is that this offseason, Pat has hit on, like the Arthur acquisition has been great. The Caicedo last minute, because he signed like 2 weeks before the season started. Yeah, was great.
On a free, we didn't have to pay nothing for Caicedo.
Yeah, they've done some great things, but that's what I'm saying. Like, they need to have an understanding that they're in a situation right now where flexibility is available to them depending on what they do. And if they're aggressive about it and go about it the way I think they should, if they're really serious about making this playoff run, they can do a lot of special things this season. We don't have to worry about next season. Next season is next season, right? Nothing's ever guaranteed, because look, if they decide they do something and they're aggressive about it and they make a playoffs this season, man, the fan base is excited. The fan base is happy. This fan base, the little amount of fan base that they still do have left, and the loyalty that they have left, you kind of build a sigh of relief for us, because it's like, yo, finally we can get that monkey off of our shoulder and we can move on. But to say that we did all these great signings in the offseason and then we did jack shit this summer transfer window, and then we end up missing the playoffs, it's like, even though it is a positive, it's a positive sign because the Dynamo did look better this season, it still hurts. It's still another season without a playoff run. It's still another season where we're one of the bottom teams. I mean, look, man, 60% of the league makes the playoffs.
Yep.
Like, I mean, that's the sad thing about it. It would be one thing if it was, only the top 3 teams in each conference makes the playoffs. That's difficult. I can understand, but half of the conference in each side makes the playoff. Well, no, actually, like I said, 60% of the whole league.
Yeah, it's over half. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes the playoffs. So, I mean, that's the unfortunate thing about it, that when you have such a high percentage of teams being able to make the playoffs and you're not one of them, and you haven't been one of them for almost a decade.
Yeah.
That's where, as a fan base, you're like, yo, if they don't care, we don't care.
Yep.
And that's what it's been.
So this question from Doggo is, I think, a great question, and it's one I've kind of already hinted at a little bit. People are saying the Dynamo won't be making any moves to bring in new designated players. Do y'all feel the same? So I'm going to take this one, Mark, real quick, as the resident salary budget expert and roster expert when it comes to this kind of stuff. The truth is, until the Dynamo move Coco, Sebas, and Teenage, those 3 players, or one of those 3 players, they don't have the space to make a move right now. They just don't. There's no roster slot left in any of their spaces. So they've got to make a move to free up space to do that. And in making a move like that, where they're going to get rid of one of those 3 players, in the process of getting rid of one of those 3 players, they're going to likely have to take something extra on, with the exception of Coco, who I think they could sell as a straight transfer, recoup whatever money they've spent, plus an additional amount of money, and get that freed up DP slot. My problem is, though, is if we haven't heard anything by now, and we know that summer transfer window closes August 2nd, we are 18 days from August 2nd. 19 days I guess technically 19 days from August 2nd. 19 days, folks. 19 days. That is under 3 weeks. If you think that they got enough time to sign a DP in under 3 weeks that no one knows about and nobody's prepared for them to sign, it ain't happening. I'm sorry, it just ain't happening. They've got their eye on some players. We've heard some rumors, but none of these guys are DP level players. None of these guys are going to be, are going to change the state of this team. We are where we are because of the moves that have been made and because of the lack of roster flexibility that we have as the result of some injuries and some players not playing up to what the expectation was coming off of last season. And because of decisions by, let's be honest, with Ben Olsen and company.
Yeah, so just to piggyback off what Sean said, I mean, if this front office is ready for whatever, I mean, I don't know. They can have certain scenarios happen where they have flexibility and stuff like that. Like I said, if they're prepared like that, then maybe they can make a impact signing. I don't know if it'd be a DP level signing, but maybe an impact signing. But like Sean said, I mean, before we can add, we have to subtract. And obviously the subtractions would be either selling Coco abroad to whatever team in Europe is coming after him, which would be great because then you get that money in. And with that money, you can either buy down Teenage, but I don't know if they would do that because, like I said, he's an expiring contract. And why buy down somebody that's, like I said, unless they're trying to be aggressive and get that DP spot, if they feel they can't sell Sebas to make his DP spot available, But like I said, before we can think about additions, there has to be subtractions.
Yep.
And obviously, like, mentioned in the poll question, obviously, with the rumors being Sebas being monitored by multiple MLS clubs and obviously Coco being monitored by a couple of European clubs, most notably Rayo Vallecano and La Liga, those deals need to be done. And hopefully they have the sense of urgency to make them happen. And they're fair deals. I mean, look, even though Coco is having a magnificent run with Panama and the Gold Cup, let's be real. I mean, he's a Panamanian player. He's not Argentine. He's not Brazilian. He's not, one of those big country, big type of players. So, if they come up with a $6-7 million transfer fee, I'm taking. Thank you, Coco, for appreciate everything you've done for us. But they're giving me 6-7 mil. I'm out. Have a great time in Europe. I know people are throwing around like, because if they win the Gold Cup, this and that, his value should go up to like 10. And in a perfect world, would it be great? But like I said, he's a box to box midfielder from a small country in Panama that's not really known so much for their soccer, as far like that. So you have to understand that you have to battle those stereotypes and those criterias beforehand. So it is what it is. I'm selling at 6, maybe even 7, for sure 7. And I'm moving on. But like I said, if Pat goes the Matt Jordan route, where he's trying to get ridiculous amount of money for what they were trying to get for Alworth and Mato at that time, he might end up fumbling the bag like Matty Jordan did, and hopefully that's not the case. But like I said, man, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of things that can happen, but we got to subtract before we can add.
So George did us a favor, and he went and broke down. Thank you, George and Chet. All of the contracts that are up in 2023 are up at the end of the year. That's Steve Clark, Corey Bird, Griffin Dorsey, Caicedo, Teenage Davey, Artur, Ivan Franco, Vanderkoos. He's not being re-upped, I can guarantee that. Ethan Bartlow, Talon Maples, Schmidt, whose first name I can't remember, Brooklyn Reigns, Beto Avila. All of these guys have contracts up at the end of the season. So that's a good point, but I think my concern is if we're waiting until the end of the season to decide on those players, if those decisions, a lot of those decisions have not already been made. Are you joining with your other other thing there? All right, see you in a sec. You can hop off while I talk. It's fine. I'm big again. Oh, good. I'm small again. Thank you, Mark. Dear God, that is the most annoying thing to have to deal with, but going solo. But I look at that list, and there's players on that list that I like, and there's players on that list that I could care less about. And like I said, if those decisions have not already been made, if you don't already know who your replacements are, or at least what positions you want to replace in the offseason, it's too late. You're already too late. You're behind the 8 ball at this point. You need to be knocking on those doors right now ahead of the offseason, because you're going to miss out on players if you're not. So Pablo says, and this is important, I think, I'll be more hopeful for next season if they make moves this summer. So we talked about the restrictions they're at, what they've got to do to start making moves, to even begin making moves this summer. I think that we're at a point where, like I said, 19, 20 days, whatever you want to call it, we're roughly 3 weeks away from the end of this, summer window closing. And we haven't heard hide nor tail of anything happening. We know they want to sell some players and that they have to sell some players before they can make moves. But if you're giving yourself, only the last week of the window to make those moves, it's too late. The selling of these players. Look, Sebas has been unhappy here since the beginning of the season. If you haven't already started approaching these MLS teams to make these trades, and you don't have a trade already lined up for this player, what are you doing the rest of the season? Where is your priority at? Because this player has to be moved. He's not happy here. He's not the best version of himself, and you're paying way too much money for him to just sit there on the bench and not do anything for you. You should have already made that move. So those are the types of things, to me, that Pat has proven to me that he's not the guy to lead this team as general manager into the next evolution of what the Dynamo can be.
Yeah, look, I'm not asking Pat to take a lowball deal on Sebas or whatever, but look, if it's true that there are several MLS teams, look, I'm putting it on the table, like, yo, you, give me your best offer, and let's be legit about it. This is a guy who's a double-digit goal scorer. You saw what he was able to do with a lackluster team last season. If you think your team needs a number 9 and needs a number 9 that plays that has his style, show me what you got. Best offer will get them, and legit offer. I mean, obviously you're gonna have those teams that are gonna lowball, but look, you're being serious about it. They gotta show. They got to understand that you're being serious about this. If you're going to lowball me, don't even come into the conversation. Who's for real about this? And let's go. Because I need the availability of his spot available to me. And plus, I need this salary off of my books so I can go spend on another player who I think is capable, who's going to fit in this system that we have currently, and who's going to improve the level of my whole squad. So let's do this. Let's go. It's real simple. Look, I mean, it's one of those things where you can cat and mouse it to the point where they keep you on a fish hook for all up until August, whatever the day is, that this is the last day to be bringing players. But then you just hurting yourself, and if you're willing to do that and keep Sebas on the squad and keep his salary, then okay, cool. But you got to live with the circumstances and the consequences of what happens at the end of the season. Because if the end of the season he's sitting there and he hasn't done a damn thing because he's still sitting on the bench, because obviously Ali, you and Thor are better suited for the system, and you miss out on the playoffs because you didn't have obviously all the players are run down and they're exhausted, and you weren't able to bring in quality depth or bring an impact player to help carry the team when they needed carrying, then you have to take responsibility for that and for the actions and for that situation being like that. So, like I said, if the scenario that you gave me earlier, if the Dynamo ended up being bottom 3 in the conference again, or even at the bottom of the table again, if I put myself in Ted's shoes, I'm seriously looking at Pat like, yo, what happened?
I mean, we had the same conversation at the end of last season. We had the exact same conversation at the end of last season.
But the difference is that, when Pat came in, he had all those overinflated contracts. You're trying to get out. You're trying to get all those contracts out, which he's done. Okay, like I said,
I'm not arguing with you. I want to be clear. I'm not saying that. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying
look,
we had this conversation at the end of last season. So my frustration is, and I think this, if I'm in Ted's shoes, I'm going to echo what you're saying, actually. But if I'm in Ted's shoes, I go, look, Pat, I gave you an extra year to prove that you could do it, and you've proven you can't. Yeah, right? I mean, as simple as it is.
And I'm not gonna shit on the fact that he didn't have a good offseason. He did have a good offseason signings, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, but you had an opportunity. Like, how do we go from middle of July, we're in playoff contention, to end of October, we're bottom of the table?
Yep.
That you have to take responsibility. I'm not grading you for half a season. I'm grading you for the overall
whole season. Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, you did great. Your first semester of college, A student. But I mean, if you failed the second semester, you don't pass.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, you have to give me an answer for why this happened, why this collapse happened. Like, what was the reason, you know? And why didn't we foresee this happening? And why didn't we act on it when we were at our peak, July, whatever, and we were in playoff contention? Why didn't we what was holding you back from making the necessary moves or to make it happen? Because 2 weeks ago we were in fourth place.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Fourth place right there. We lost 1-0 to Seattle Sounders, where in a game where actually I think the Dynamo did really well in Seattle, where if we would have got that point or even got that win, we would have been 2 points ahead of them and had 3 points and been third place in the Western Conference. Little things here and there, but we would have been in an awesome position. We're not in an awesome position. We're in an okay position. Like I said, we're still in playoff contention, but we're falling. We see that we're falling.
Yep.
Are you going to do something about it?
Yeah, I was going to say falling without falling and not seeing where the difference in the change is happening to try to get better.
And I see on the chat a lot of talk about Xavier Valdez. And look, Clark's been great. I mean, for given what he is and whatever. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to say he's top 5 goalkeeper in the league or anything like that. But I mean, he's been doing really well. I mean, you know, in the few games where the Dynamo have actually been like where a lot of goals have been scored, it was not his fault. You know, there's been lack of communication. Like, for example, this last game against Minnesota. I mean, you can't blame him when you have Pookie on a 1v1. That dude is an astonishing goal scorer. He's a complete striker. He's a complete number 9.
Yeah, you cannot fault Clark for that at all.
And that guy sees 1v1. He knows what to do with that ball and how to score.
Look, he was doing it to Premier League keepers not that long ago.
Yeah, dude. He was doing that with Norwich in the Premier League, scoring on people.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So this guy knows what to do. But with that being said, I mean, you know, I'm excited with what Xavier Valdez is doing, and obviously the guy's built. He's a beast, man. He's a big guy. But I mean, are you ready to hand off this team to a 20-year-old to be there back there? I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I want to build a little bit confidence and a little bit of continuity with the back four and let them have a little bit more, you know, a little bit more seasoning. I mean, look, the guy's playing international soccer with DR.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, and he's doing really good with the Dynamo Dos and all that stuff. And he was on the bench this past week, this past game as the backup. But I mean, you know, I think we got to have a little bit of baby steps with him. But I don't think Steve Clark is the issue here.
I agree, and I said that in chat. And I think Valdez, Xavier, and the only reason I brought him up, he's probably 2 to 3 years out. I'm thinking more like 3, but I brought that up because it's important to remember we do have some depth at, you know, in Dos and kind of at the younger levels. My problem is that we still have not transitioned a player fully from the academy to a starting Dynamo position other than Memo Rodriguez on a consistent basis. You know, and now with that being said, Memo is crap. I mean, look at how he's doing with LAFC. I mean, it is not great. LA Galaxy. It is not great over there. Yeah, I mean, I look at the situation we're at right now, and to me, it is different than last season. When I say this, different from last season in the fact that we have better talent than we had last season overall. The talent of this roster is definitely higher than it was last season. My problem is the results are starting to begin to echo what we saw last season. The differences in that talent level are not producing the extra results that you would expect would be needed to make that leap to the next level and get you to where we would need. And I think Evil brought this up, and this is something I wanted to talk about, and I saw it come up. We got to do predictions here in a minute, but I want to talk about this because this is key. Brooklyn Reigns was that guy that was supposed to be the next Coco, if you will. He was supposed to be that guy. He was supposed to be, good enough to compete at the MLS level. Where has he been? I mean, that man has fallen off everything.
I'm gonna give my opinion on this situation. I think Brooklyn is there, but you have to understand our midfield is our strongest point on this team.
It is stacked.
So I mean, and this is why I feel that if a legit offer comes in for Coco, you have the depth to move on from Coco. Do I think Brooklyn is going to be on par with what Coco is right now? No, I don't think so. I mean, look, but the kid is 19, 20 years old, but you're giving him experience. And plus you have the leadership. You have your two best players, Hector and Arthur, playing right alongside him that can help him along the way, or you put Caicedo in there, and like we mentioned prior, Caicedo does the job needed. Yep. And with that being said, I mean, look, I think Brooklyn still has plenty of time. Like I said, I think we're so infatuated and enamored to get a kid on the field to show his skills. We want to see that superstar player at the teenage age, which, look, I would love to have a prodigy or a phenomenal player on our team at 18, 19 years old, but that's not the case right now. And I don't care about that at the moment. What I care about is for this team to move on to the next phase and fight for the playoffs. I'm not worried about it in the individual thing happening here. I'm worried about a collective group, club situation going to the next level. Now, if Brooklyn is able to do that on par with that, with the club moving on to the next level, that's great. But it doesn't mean anything to me if Brooklyn is balling out and doing amazing and the club is still sitting on the bottom of the table, like that doesn't matter to me. So, with that being said, if Coco does move, I think there's minutes available for Brooklyn to obviously get there. But at this moment, I'm not surprised that he's not getting the minutes. And I don't want him to get the minutes on the wing either, like he was getting earlier in the season. That's stupid, you know? The same thing with Juan Casillas. I mean, look, the kid has been doing phenomenal at the U20 level for Colombia and all that stuff, and a lot of praise has been going along his way. But I mean, look, the midfield is our strongest point in this club, and those two young bucks unfortunately are not going to take Acha out. They're not going to take Arthur out. They're not taking Coco out. And Caicedo has been phenomenal as the fourth midfielder. So, unfortunately, right now they're at an unfortunate situation where there's too many good players at a certain level.
Look, we said it in the offseason when they signed Caicedo that the center of this midfield, the center midfield in this club, it was like they think that's like it's the if I look back at Philadelphia Union, how they used to be in the super draft, they would just draft goalkeepers. That's all they cared about was they wanted to draft only goalkeepers, and they would trade for draft picks just to get goalkeepers. And, I look at it and it's like the Dynamo have a specific position that they feel like is the most important position on the pitch. And they are going to put everything into that one position and everything else. OK, we'll figure it out as we go along. The problem is, though, you can only have so many players in that position on the field at one time. So putting all that money and all of that value into that position doesn't do you any good if you're in that position. I want to ask this last question before we go to predictions. This is a real question that I'm asking. From a player perspective, from a Dynamo perspective, what is the identity of this team? If you are looking at it at, like I'm trying to think of, are we the type of, this is the way I want to put this. Are we the type of team from a Dynamo perspective that we're just going to buy players and then sell them? Or are we the type of team that's going to develop players that we buy and then sell them? Or are we the type of team that are going to buy a bunch of old players and then not sell them because they're too old and we can't sell them? Or are we the type of team that are going to develop from within and then, and then eventually sell those players a la like an FC Frisco? What type of team are we? What's our identity?
Man, it's kind of hard to kind of say what kind of team we are, right? Because I mean, it's fairly new to with the front office and what they're trying to do and stuff like that. I mean, I see them bringing the players, but I mean, none of these players that they brought in have been homegrown or anything like that. Like you look at our whole squad aside from Brooklyn, and have none of them are homegrown. So it's we can't say that we're developing and then moving on. We are bringing veterans into the squad. We are trying to build that foundation. But with that being said, I think it's great that we have a good foundation of players like Arthur and Achache and Caicedo and Coco, to where Brooklyn could look at those guys and learn from those guys and learn something positive from those guys. I mean, think of the level of midfield that we have this year compared to last year, where it was Vera, Seren, and whoever else. I can't even think about who else was out there. But the level of player that we have here now is so much higher, and that's great for these young guys to learn from. Build character and understand the winning culture, I guess, because we didn't have that before. Now,
it was Coco and Quintero, to answer your question.
Yeah. So I don't think we're anywhere near being a club where we're going to develop and move on, because I don't see any young players breaking into the first team anytime soon, honestly. Who knows? I mean, the closest one aside from Brooklyn obviously would be Xavier. But I mean, he's a goalkeeper.
Yep.
But with that being said, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think right now we have to be a plug and play. We have to understand that, look, the team that we have right now, I don't know if you think they're overachieving or they're just achieving right where they need to be achieving. But regardless of whatever side you're on, they're doing better than what they have been doing. And where do we go from there? Do we plug in some more veteran help? Do we go get an impact player? I mean, right now we're buyers. We're buyers because we're not sellers. We don't sell anybody. The fortunate thing here is that whatever Coco learned from Ache has, he grabbed. I don't know what he did, but I remember him on an interview understanding just how much of a maze he was, seeing Ache up front and how he plays and how he goes about his style about playing the game. And obviously he picked up and took his game to a whole nother level, to where, he's gonna be top 11 in the Gold Cup tournament. Depending on whether or not Panama beats Mexico this Sunday, I mean, he might end up being man of the match. He might be player of the tournament. There's a lot of hype around Coco, and that's credit to him. Learning from Ache, I guess.
All right, so I said we'd get to this because Dago asked earlier. All right, it's time for some predictions.
Who are we playing this weekend? This Saturday? Is it Colorado?
It's Colorado, July 15th, this Saturday. It is an away match in Colorado.
Are you excited about League Cup?
I'm sorry, League Cup that exists? I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, I'm really not. I mean, it's 2 matches. It'll be kind of fun, whatever. That's about it. I really, let's do this prediction. I got something else I want to point out to you, because I don't think we've talked on this yet, and it's going to be interesting to talk about.
Okay, let's go.
Less than 5-minute conversation. So prediction, Colorado, and then we'll talk. That's it. Actually, we're only going to do Colorado. I guess we'll do the semi-cup prediction too, even though it's over a month away at this point. But all right, Colorado. In Colorado, who you got? What's the score?
Colorado and Colorado. That was the trip we did last year. When it was
Yep.
Where Seva saved us.
Yep.
Man, I don't know. I mean, I don't like the way they're playing, but I mean, at least they'll go to Colorado where it's a little bit cooler, but still hot. A little bit of altitude out there as well.
Definitely at altitude. Yep.
So I'm going to be positive, and hopefully they can go into the League Cup on a winning note. So I'm going to say 2-1 Dynamo. I think they're capable. I mean, I know Dynamo on the road is something not to be too harp on, but we need a little bit of positivity going into League Cup. I think the League Cup is coming in a fantastic time because, like I said, we all know that summer slump. But if they summer slump in the League Cup, who cares, you know?
Yeah. So my prediction is I think Callow maybe a little bit overzealous there with a 4-2 loss to the to Colorado. With Ache and Shevchenko both getting their 5th yellow as well in Colorado. That's pretty crazy. I will say this: Colorado are a very good team this year. Maybe the results in total don't show it, but the quality that they have on the pitch is undeniable. I think that the Dynamo are going to, looking at the last result, looking at the last, handful of results and the way they've been playing, I think this is a 2-0 loss to Colorado. I don't think we generate any kind of offense. I think this is a streak we should get a little used to coming up. I think it's going to continue. But yeah, I guess we will see. With that being said, I want to talk about this just very quickly because we have 4 minutes left, so we'll just quickly get to this. Looking ahead at the schedule after League Cup, we've got Portland on the 20th of August. We have the US Open Cup semifinal on the 23rd of August. We have Real Salt Lake on the 26th of August. We have Columbus on the 30th of August. And on the 2nd of September, we have LA Galaxy. That is 5 matches from the 23rd to the September 2nd. That is basically 5 matches in roughly a week and a half. That's every 3 days you have a match, effectively. So how you feeling about that kind of stretch, Mark? You feeling positive that in 5 matches in every 3 days that we're going to come out with some good wins?
Well, look, the great thing about predicting right now, as opposed to predicting closer to that time period, is a lot of things can happen between now and then, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe the Dynamo win League Cup and they lift the trophy and they're tired. Who knows? But yeah. With that being said, if it's with the team that we have today, right now, at this point, and let's say they play the 2 games and they drop out of League Cup, whatever. The players get rested. They get a well amount of good rest, I guess. But that first game against Portland might be a little bit of trying to get back in the rhythm of things. But I'm, as far as those games, obviously the most important one, or the most one that I think has the highest value to the fan base, is obviously that Wednesday game against RSL here at home, the semifinal of the US Open Cup.
Yep.
I'm hoping for a good showing. But the thing is, RSL have made 2 great signings, and Chicho and I forgot who else they signed. They signed somebody else, a good player, but I can't remember who it was right now. But I don't know. RSL are not to be taken lightly, especially during that time period, and depending on what type of League Cup they have. Who knows? Chicho might be coming in here with a vengeance to show LAFC what they're missing out on. Who knows? But those 5 games and within a 2-week span, it'll be tough.
Yeah.
But look, this is why you need to get the depth, get the impactful players. The little break in between it's going to be nice, but the club needs to play the games in front of them, and they need to understand that it's one game at a time, and they need to go out there. And if one of the players needs a rest, that's okay. Rest up, but whoever fills in his spot needs to take that opportunity and show out.
Yep. Agreed.
So, we'll see. It'll be interesting. But as of right now, I think obviously I know the US Open Cup game is at home. I think I want to say the September 2nd game against Galaxy is at home too.
Yeah, I believe it is. I'm not looking at it anymore. I just closed it. You just missed it.
Yeah, and the other 3 are on the road, obviously.
Yep.
So road Dynamo, that it is what it is. If we get a point here and there, that'd be great. But obviously the semifinal win would be awesome, and then obviously always beating LA Galaxy all the time is always awesome. So
for sure. Hey, we're at that point in the show, buddy. It is the last minute. Any closing final thoughts? That's what I'm trying to say. Words.
Yeah, man. Like I said, thank you guys again. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of interruption there. Center point. What can you do? But yeah, man, we appreciate the support. Mela, George, G Money, Dago, Pablo, all you guys, whether you're on Twitch, YouTube, or wherever you reach us at.
Don't forget Callow. Thank you, Callow.
Callow, what's up, Callow? Evaneth, all you guys, we appreciate it so much. Hopefully we're back on next week, next Thursday, you know, like I said. But you know, with all that being said, continue to hold it down. Looking forward to a win in Colorado this Saturday, and maybe a nice little showing in Leagues Cup. We'll see. Well, who knows? Maybe we'll get Messi at Shell Energy Stadium if they can move on to the next round. But with that being said, man, hold it down for H-Town. Oh, happy 713 day.